Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Pooja Khandelwal, and I'm the Content Strategy Manager here at Fashion Snoops. Today, I am delighted to be joined by a very special guest who is known for his revolutionary work in the field of biomechatronics and has also been a huge inspiration for the entire FS team, Dr. Hugh Herr. He heads the Center for Extreme Bionics at the MIT Media Lab and is creating the next generation of robotic prosthetics. Coined as the leader of Bionic Age by Time magazine, Hugh is a double amputee himself and is responsible for breakthrough advances in bionic limbs that not only provide greater mobility, but also new hope to those with physical disabilities. Welcome to our Thrive program, Hugh. It's an honor to be speaking with you in connection to our sentiment, Edge.
Well, thank you so much.
So, Hugh, speaking of Edge, you really are the pioneer, pushing the edge of human capabilities and forcing us to imagine what life would be like with bionic exoskeletons and prosthetics. So having said that, could you please tell us a little bit about the mission of what you're trying to accomplish at MIT and the work that you're doing in a broader scope?
Yeah, thank you. At MIT, we're trying to, as you state, advance bionics to extend human physical capability. There's two missions. One is for a person with a limb impairment. The mission with the bionics is to restore their physical capability back to normal physiological levels. Our second mission is for a person without a limb pathology to augment their capability beyond what nature intended, to enable them to walk and run faster with lower stress, to jump higher, really to be bionic. And so to achieve those two goals, we're developing interfaces between the physiological body and mechatronics. So there's three types of interfaces we're advancing. One is mechanical, how bionics are attached to the body mechanically, so that the interface is comfortable and efficient. The second is neural or electrical interface, how the brain is connected to the mechatronics. And the third is dynamic, how can we build mechatronics that resemble the dynamics and shape of the missing biological body part. So it's those three extreme interfaces that we're advancing the science and engineering around.
Okay. Well, and we also know that you have designed your own limbs. So could you tell us more about the bionics that you wear and how do they work for you?
Yeah, in 1982, I was in a mountain climbing accident and I suffered severe frostbite to my lower legs. And after months of effort, my doctors had to amputate both of my legs below the knee. So when I stand, I'm entirely supported by mechatronics. Each of my bionic limbs are computer controlled. They each have 3 small microprocessors. They also have sensors, about 12 sensors per leg that measure temperature and force and movements and so on. And then there's a muscle tendon-like actuator, a motor system. So the computer then takes in sensory information, runs an algorithm, and drives that motor so that I can walk in a normal way. I can walk across various terrains and speeds, and my gait is completely normal. It's not unlike a natural gait of a person with normal biological limbs.
Wow, that's beautiful. So hearing you talk about it, it reminds me of one of your TED Talks where you mentioned that, rather refer to yourself as a bionic man, but not a cyborg. So could you differentiate between the two for us?
Sure, sure. So my synthetic limbs to some degree capture the normal mechanics of a biological limb. And because of that, I'm able to walk at normal speeds and normal metabolic rates. But I can't, my limbs typically aren't brain controlled, and I also can't feel my synthetic limbs like you can feel your hand or your leg. When I touch them, I don't feel a normal cutaneous sensation. When I move them, I can't sense the proprioceptive positions and speeds and loads on the prosthesis. So I'm bionic, but I'm not cyborg. If I were a cyborg, not only would my brain be able to impact the synthetic computation, but also the synthetic computation on the bionic limb would be able to input information into my nervous system, enabling me to feel and sense the mechatronics as if I could feel and sense flesh and bone. So we're now working at MIT ways of closing that loop so that biological brain signals can impact synthetic computation on the limb, and also the limb can input information into the nervous system, enabling the person to feel their synthetic body part.
Okay, wow, that's profound. I'm really excited to see where that takes us. And so I know that you have designed prosthetics for so many people, and I can only imagine what they must be feeling like with this science fiction fantasy becoming their new reality. Could you tell us a little bit about their reaction and this whole feeling around that emotion?
Yeah, so when we're developing electrical or neural interfaces between the biological body and robotic devices, when we close the loop on the nervous system, when a person can think and move their bionic toe or ankle, and when they feel those movements as a natural sensation, something truly remarkable happens. The person starts saying things like, I have my limb back, I have my body back, I have my life back. Wherein the person views the designed, built mechatronic appendage as actually part of their body, as part of self, which is really profound, that we're at a point in history where we can design something out of synthetics, and it's so coupled, it's so perfectly integrated with human physiology that the person views it as part of themselves. It no longer ceases to be a tool, and it's something else. It's fully integrated, and it becomes part of self.
A part of self that is immortal. That's
right,
something.
because it's designed and synthetic and upgradable. It's immortal. It does not age. In fact, if you continue to upgrade the bionic limb, it gets better in time, not worse in time. So it's very interesting, in my biological body is getting worse in time because we're all getting older. But my bionic self is getting better in time because every month I'm upgraded. Faster computers, stronger motors, etc. That part of my body gets better in time, where my biological body gets worse in time. It's very curious.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to our next question. So does this mean that we're looking at a future where we'll have an option to choose our identity, just as we choose our clothes every morning today? And in addition to that, when can we hope for people like me, maybe, to own multiple pairs of limbs? Say one to lift heavy objects, one for maybe ballet dancing, and one for scaling the Everest, because why not?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's such interesting technologies now being developed within laboratories around the world in the realm of bionics. And once all these various technologies are released and commercialized and made available to the individual, decades from now, each individual will have the ability to augment their own body. And beyond physicality, there'll be ways of augmenting our minds, augmenting cognition, what we feel, what we sense. And you can imagine a future where a person can sculpt, can modify, can adjust their own body and minds. And by doing so, sculpt their own identities. So in a simple way, I experienced that in my own experience. I experienced that identity transformation. When my limbs were amputated in 1982, I was told after the surgeries that my life was finished, that I was disabled, that I was weak, that I would never ride a bicycle again, I would never climb mountains again. once I designed my own legs and I could do all those things as well or better than I had achieved before the accident with normal biological limbs, society suddenly viewed me in a very different way. They viewed me as powerful, beautiful, with authority, augmented. Some people even expressed jealousy that I could climb mountains better than they could with biological limbs. So that shift in identity, I went from a weak person to a very powerful person, just through a biological or a technological transformation. So in the future, all of us will be able to adapt our own identities by transforming our capabilities via bionic technology.
Wow. Hearing about your story and, and I've also read about it, it just blows my mind how you turned something dark into something so beautiful. And not only for yourself, for everybody, everyone like you. And also so yeah, well, to ask you another question related to that, how many years do you think are we from a complete transformation? And when I say complete transformation, I mean in terms of society. Like, what does it mean when everybody has this power to choose different identities and have access to so much power? What do you think would happen to the societies?
Yeah, in the near future, the field is close to developing a leg exoskeleton that will enable a person with completely normal biological legs to walk and run and jump in a way that's beyond nature, that's completely augmented, something that can't be done with normal biological limbs. So that's coming very, very soon. I co-founded a company called Defy that's working on that exact challenge. Shortly after that, we're going to have brain-controlled exoskeletons where you can think and your own brain can actuate via synthetic motors that increase strength. So a lot of this sounds like science fiction, but it's actually going to be here very soon.
Wow. Yeah, it does. It's like directly from a sci-fi movie, if I may.
Yeah,
and it's so exciting to see that you're making it our reality. So, well, how do you see bionic science and technology merging with fashion and, smart and adaptive design?
So one of the oldest technologies in the human timeline is the shoe. With the shoe, if you look at the shoe, the first examples of shoes are thousands of years old. And if you look at those and you look at modern shoes, they really, conceptually, they're really the same thing. There's things like laces, and there's a midsole, and it's designed to protect the foot and so on, and offer some level of cushion. The shoe hasn't changed, at all, really, fundamentally. My goal and the goals of my colleagues is to walk into a shoe store and finally see something truly innovative. So we're building bionic shoes that are motorized, that actually catapult and inject lots of mechanical power and work into human motion. And for the first time, do something that's unique and distinct from what shoes have been across the human timeline. So that, I think, will merge beautifully into fashion. We can create bionic appendages that are aesthetically beautiful and that, from a functional perspective, augment who we are. So I look forward to that duality between gorgeous aesthetics and gorgeous functionality. That will emerge in the exoskeletal field in the next several years.
Yeah, that indeed will be spectacular, something to look forward to. So, with all these technological inventions and with the power that we're going to get, what would be ethical considerations to bear in mind? And what are the threats associated with it? And, if I have to sum it up, like, where should we really draw a line? when we are speaking about fusing man with machine?
Yeah, so it's a good question. You know, in today's world, we have a very narrow view of what beauty is and what intelligence is. You know, we view a beautiful woman in a very narrow way. We view a beautiful man in a very narrow way. We view intelligence in a very narrow way. And we have an opportunity with technology in the future to greatly expand human diversity. You know, in Bionics, if you want a third arm, you can have a third arm. If you want to race around the rings of Mars in a VR virtual reality experience, you can do so. If you want to be in Paris, even though you're physically in New York, you can do that using telepresence. So technology is going to open up such a vast diversity of experience and body types. And my hope is we will explode this very narrow view of beauty and intelligence that we now hold, where there'll be all kinds of beauties, human type beauties, machine type beauties, and so on, blended in really creative ways. That's the future that I hope for. That's the future that I seek. We also have the potential in the future to collapse human diversity. So for example, if we give adults the ability to design their future offspring, that may end with a horrific outcome. So if parents can design their own future babies, because of how narrow society often views beauty and intelligence, my prediction would be that we would collapse and greatly reduce human diversity, which would be awful, terrible. So depending on the technologies that we develop, and most critically, the policies and laws that we put forth, as a society, we will select whether we're going to expand human diversity or reduce human diversity. But I think we will largely get it right. We will make decisions that will expand who we are as human beings.
Well said. I hope so too. And so I just spoke, you walked us through so many of your new projects, but is there anything that's upcoming real soon and that excites you, something that we should be keeping a lookout for?
Yeah, we're at MIT, we're working on a lot of different projects. Connecting the brain bidirectionally to the built design world, it really excites me. Changing what clothes are, changing what shoes are, making them bionic and active and adaptive is also very, very exciting. So just, I mean, Bionics is this wonderful, very human endeavor where we take what we have in our environment and we take all our creativity and we focus it on making humans things that nature didn't intend. Expanding our experiences and what we're able to do in a very profound way. And that's just, that's as old as the human timeline itself. So that ever expanding human potential is what really excites me.
Superhumans coming soon.
That's right.
That is amazing. It's been so enlightening listening to your thoughts and speaking with you about your current work and upcoming work. You really give us a view of what the future beholds. You give us a sneak peek into the future, and I am so excited to see more on bionics and even how it relates with fashion, with bionic boots, with clothes, basically everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you so. Thank you.
Yeah, and on behalf of Fashion Snoops team, I want to really thank you for participating in our Thrive program. It has been our privilege.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Cheers.